Welcome back, Daisy Cakes. Today we're going to be looking at the 1968 Hugo Awards. Why? Because I am Daisy Ex Machina, the drag queen detective who investigates all things speculative and science fiction, fantasy, and horror. In this series, I look at Hugo and Nebula Awards. I just started the Nebulas. And look at all the nominees and pick one book to add to my TBR. Not necessarily the winner, but the one that catches my eye because maybe it's an author I haven't read before or a book I haven't heard of. And one issue that is coming up is that there's going to be a lot of repeats between the Hugos and the Nebula. Now, this 1968 selection of Hugo nominees has a lot of the same books from the 1967 Nebulas, which I just did. And the reason the awards are out of sync is because the Nebulas attribute the year that the books were published, not the year they're awarded, whereas the Hugos, the year attributed is the year awarded. So that means the 1968 Hugos, the nominees are also in the 1967 Nebulas because 1967 was the year published and 1968 was the year awarded. Hope that is as clear as mud. Let's go ahead and read the nominees of the 1968 Hugos, and I will pick one book to add to the TBR. Again, many of these are repeats from the Nebulas. The nominees for the 1968 Hugo Awards are Chthon by Piers Anthony, The Einstein Intersection by Samuel R. Delany, Lore of Light by Roger Zelazny, The Butterfly Kid by Chester Anderson, and Thorns by Robert Silverberg. And the winner is Lord of Light by Roger Zelazny. Okay, so 4 of the books nominated for the 1968 Hugos were also nominated for the 1967 Nebulas. And I'll just quickly go through them, starting with the winner, Lord of Light by Roger Zelazny. And again, I don't believe I've read this before, even though I've talked about it a lot. And I feel like I probably should read it. My favorite Zelazny, of course, is the 9 Lords of Amber, the Amber series. But let me quickly read the blurb for Lord of Light. Earth is long dead. On a colony planet, a band of men has gained control of technology, made themselves immortal, and now rule the world as the gods of the Hindu pantheon. Only one dares to oppose them. He who was once Siddhartha and is now Mahatman, binder of demons, Lord of Light. Okay, like I said, the Zelazny book I feel like I ought to read because I know a lot about it already, and I'm a big fan of the Amber series. But who knows? Let's move on to Chthon by Piers Anthony, also nominated for the Nebulas. Chthon was Piers Anthony's first published novel in 1967, written over the course of 7 years. He started it when he was in the U.S. Army, so it is a long prison sequence that is reminiscent of that experience being dark and grim. It features Chthon 5, a spaceman who commits the crime of falling in love with the dangerous, alluring mignonette, and is therefore condemned to death in the subterranean prison of Chthon. It contains flashbacks to show how he came to know the mignonette, and flash forwards to show how he dealt with her after his escape from prison. The author regards this as perhaps the most intricately structured novel the science fantasy genre has seen. It was a contender for awards, but not a winner. Well, I have read Chthon before. I think it's amazing. I read it because I was a big fan of Piers Anthony's fantasy, namely the first three Xanth novels. After that, they got repetitive. And I also was a big fan of the Adept series, if you've read that one. Also, fantasy sci-fi, more fantasy than sci-fi. And I recommend Chthon. I think it's great. Moving on to the winner of the Nebula, not the Hugo, but the Nebula, the Einstein Intersection by Samuel R. Delany, which I picked to read for the 1967 Nebulas. Let's go ahead and quickly read the blurb. The Einstein Intersection won the Nebula Award for Best Science Fiction Novel of 1967. The surface story tells of the problems a member of an alien race, Lolobi, has assimilating the mythology of Earth, where his kind have settled among the leftover artifacts of humanity. The deeper tale concerns, however, the way those who are different must deal with the dominant cultural ideology. The tale follows Lobi's mythic quest for his lost love, Riza. In luminous and hallucinated language, it explores what new myths might emerge from the detritus of the human world as those who are different try to seize history and the day. Okay, well, I've already read it and reviewed it. You'd go ahead and read my review up here. Highly recommend it. Moving on to The Butterfly Kid by Chester Anderson. I'm really curious about this because I have no idea who Chester Anderson is, and I've never heard of this book, so this would be a completely new find. Let's go ahead and read the blurb. This is the first novel in the Greenwich Village trilogy. Anderson's semi-autobiographical novel has a main character named after himself and a supporting character named after his roommate at the time. Aliens are supplying a new kind of drug known as reality pills, which cause your LSD hallucinations to become physically real. Okay, I love this because it sounds like it really captures the 60s with LSD and autobiographical. So obviously this is a trilogy by Chester Anderson. Breaking news! I just looked up the Greenwich Village trilogy. They are not 3 books by Chester Anderson. They're by different authors. This is what it says. Trilogy of comedy sci-fi novels characterized by 1960s counterculture. Each book is written by a different author and was intended to tell its own story independent of the others. It's the themes that connect them. Okay, so we're having this psychedelic experience in literature, semi-autobiographical. This looks like a deep cut into the 1960s hippie movement. In fact, the cover I'm personally am seeing of The Butterfly Kid, it says the hippies had a new kick from outer space. One more book to look at, Thorns by Robert Silverberg. Again, the Silverberg is another one that was nominated for the Nebulas. The Butterfly Kid was not. It's the only one on this list that was not. Let's go ahead and read the blurb for Thorns. Duncan Chalk is a monstrous media mogul with a vast appetite for other people's pain. He feeds off it and carefully nurtures it in order to feed it to the public. It is inevitable that Chalk should hone in on Minor Burris, a space traveler whose body was taken apart by alien surgeons and then put back together again differently. Burris's pain is constant, and so is Lona Calvin, used by scientists to supply eggs for 100 children and then ruthlessly discarded. Only an emotional vampire like Chalk can see the huge audience eager to watch a relationship develop between those two damaged people, and only Chalk can make it happen. First published in 1967. Okay, well, I'm remembering why I didn't pick it for the Nebulas. I'm not sure I'm in the mood to explore sadism. It sounds interesting, though. It definitely sounds interesting. If you've read it, let me know in the comments below. But for this selection of the Hugo nominees, the two I'm looking at is Lord of Light by Roger Zelazny, and The Butterfly Kid by Chester Anderson. And of these two, you know what? I'm going to go with The Butterfly Kid by Chester Anderson. I'm just so fascinated by this Greenwich trilogy, these psychedelic sci-fi comedy novels that allegedly capture the 1960s counterculture. I'm really fascinated by that, and I've never heard of either the author or the book. I don't know. What about you? What book or books would you have picked from the 1968 Hugo nominees? Let me know down in the comments. And while you're there, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. And keep a lookout for my review of The Butterfly Kid by Chester Anderson. I'm as curious as you are. And until we meet again, may all the books you read be blessed.